So red dominating the screens in South Africa today, top 40. We've seen quite a bit of pressure coming through. I've been watching Naspers. It's down over 5% today, Liston, and also Tencent in China. That's also down almost 4% today. So that filtering through into the Naspers share. And we also saw Facebook coming under pressure. What is your view on this overall space? Have you been watching it, Naspers? And do you think at these levels, when you see it down over 5%, would you say it is a buy?
I think the big story there is, as you said, Tencent. Now, Tencent came out with results on Thursday, and they were only up 2.8%. And I think, for stocks that are valued on very high multiples, 2.8 was a big disappointment.
Yeah.
Hence the follow-through on that one. But also, and coincidentally, not unconnected, is the Facebook story, because Tencent is a social media website story as well. Absolutely. And you're quite right. Facebook came under pressure again today. Now, again, the Facebook story for me is very, very interesting because the initial indications, at the price they thought they would be able to get Facebook out at was between $24 and $28. Then they came back and said, no, they thought it would be nearer 35, and they ended up, doing the final placing at 38, which was obviously at the very high end of anybody's expectations. Now, I don't think you can blame anybody who thought he was getting 25 for selling at 35 instead of 38. And the real question is, where does Facebook go to after that? The fascinating part of that space is it's almost impossible to have a metric and say, well, it ought to trade at, because Facebook's got 900 million users. The real question is how much money does each of them produce?
Yeah.
And we don't have a revenue line per user like we do on cell phones.
Absolutely.
So we've got to guess what each one might be worth. And instead of, a cell phone call lasting a few minutes, they might end up buying a motor car.
Absolutely. Okay, so
I just don't know that we know that answer.
Okay, so let's just delve into some other market news. We had famous brands out with some numbers, Vodacom as well, African Bank, a fair mixture of numbers, and things not looking that bad. Would you say the famous brands numbers gave you a bit of a concern when you're starting to see the company saying that they are worried about electricity costs and then the impact of overall administered prices on consumers' disposable income?
Well, I think let's just put it in perspective. It's an annual result, and the revenues were up 15%, operating profit up 14%, and profit after tax up 16%. Now, you can sort of, complain a little bit after that and say the environment was challenging and you saw unprecedented fragmentation, but the fact of the matter is you went up 15% and 16%. And what they're saying, and quite correctly, is that the number of consumers increased, but the number of visitors declined.
Yeah.
But, they are monitoring, and they're monitoring well. But I think what I take out of that result is that things are not as good as many people have been suggesting that the turn is here.
Absolutely.
And that's in line with my expectation. I certainly see quite a bit of this. I see people trading down. I see people under pressure. People who relied on interest of income for a while were led to believe interest rates were going to rise last year. They didn't. They haven't this year. They may even fall again. Goodness me. So people are under pressure. So this doesn't particularly surprise me.
Okay, so listen, if I'd also like to touch on Vodacom. It's up over 3% today. In fact, the top of the top 40. This is one of the reasons that we actually saw a bit of positivity into the industrial space. Richemont also up over 2%. But Vodacom, 8% rise in full year earnings, slightly short of expectations. But interesting, the market is just taking it in its stride.
Oh, no. The big story there was the dividend went up 53%.
Yeah. 706 cents.
Yeah, but the total
earnings.
dividend is now 7 Rand.
Yeah.
And, that puts it on a very high dividend yield. And if you'd bought this thing only, 2-3 years ago, it was trading around about 60 Rand. You're getting well more than 10% on that. So I think people have said this is the one, this is the good news story. They are prepared to give it back to the shareholders. I think that's why there's a lot of positivity towards that one today.
Of course, I had the CEO of Discovery in the show a short while ago, Adrian Gore, and just telling us about growth potential in China, launching Vitality through Ping An Health. What is your view on Discovery? Do you think it's making the right strides to take advantage of the product offering that it's put in place in South Africa?
Oh, yeah, I think I was on record some while back in saying that I thought it was a bold move, but that it needed to be handled well and was being handled well because they'd chosen, a reliable partner. The biggest problem I've got with investment in China is that it is kind of unpatriotic, come whatever you want to call it, to make large profits there. You've got to find some way to make it work without making large profits. It's often on the form of a royalty payment or some kind of technology transfer that you get your money. You won't get big dividends out of whatever it is that you're doing as a joint venture.
Fantastic. Listen, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us.